Demon AI. Demon AI.
Okay, so I want you to picture the scene for a second. You are sitting in a dark movie theater,
Oh, I love this.
right? You've got the large popcorn, the surround sound is completely shaking your seat, and on the screen the ocean is just churning, the city's skyline is crumbling, and rising out of the waves is this colossal, multi-headed dragon. The music swells, the creature roars, and you just feel that intense sense of awe and terror.
Yeah, I mean, I know exactly where you're going with this. You're describing the Monsterverse.
Yes.
You're thinking of like Godzilla, King Ghidorah, Kong, that whole cinematic universe that we all seem to be totally obsessed with lately.
Exactly. King Ghidorah specifically, actually. That massive three-headed lightning dragon from the Godzilla movies, it is just peak blockbuster cinema. We love these massive world-ending threats. But here is the hook for today's deep dive.
Okay, lay it on me.
What if I told you that long before long before Godzilla was even a concept on a storyboard, there was another Monsterverse? One that features a terrifying seven-headed sea dragon that makes modern movie monsters look like, well, honestly, like pets.
And just to be clear right off the bat for everyone listening, we aren't talking about some obscure fantasy novel here.
No.
Or, a lost clay tablet from a dusty museum basement.
Yeah.
You are talking about the Bible.
I am, yeah. Today we are diving into a topic that honestly surprised me when I first started looking into the research. We are talking about Leviathan.
Yeah, Leviathan.
And no, before you ask, this isn't just a big whale or like a poetic description of a Nile crocodile. According to our source today, we are talking about a twisting, chaos-bringing, literally God-frightening sea monster.
It really is such a fascinating subject, and we're working off a really comprehensive article today. It's titled God's Monsterverse, Why Leviathan Still Matters.
By Jamin Bradley, right?
Yeah, by Jamin Bradley. He's an author, a pastor, and he calls himself a nerd, which honestly I think is the exact perfect qualification for this specific topic. Because you really need someone who appreciates both ancient theology and kaiju movies to do this justice.
You really do. And look, the mission for this deep dive is pretty specific. We are going to totally geek out over the monster descriptions because they are wild and we just have to unpack them.
Oh, yeah, we do.
But we also really need to figure out why there is a literal dragon in the Bible in the first place, because Bradley argues this isn't just mythology for the sake of a cool bedtime story.
Right.
It's actually this incredibly sophisticated, ancient political and theological argument.
Yeah, it's what the scholars would call a polemic.
A polemic.
Right. It's a direct, almost aggressive challenge to the surrounding culture of the time. But to really understand the argument, you kind of have to meet the monster first.
It makes sense.
You have to understand what the people of that ancient era saw in their heads when they heard the name Leviathan.
So let's start exactly there. Let's unpack the kaiju of the Bible, as Bradley calls it. Because I think when most people hear Leviathan, if they even know the word at all, they might just think of that old political philosophy book by Thomas Hobbes.
Or maybe like a generic sea serpent boss in a video game.
Exactly. Just a big snake. But the source material gets incredibly specific about what this thing actually looks like.
It does. And the clues really start with the name itself, Leviathan. Bradley notes that the etymology here is super evocative. It can be interpreted as the twisting one.
The twisting one.
Or the wreath-like, or even the circular.
Which immediately moves us way away from the idea of a whale. Because whales don't really twist into wreaths.
No, they don't.
This screams snake or serpent.
Precisely. It suggests this really long serpentine form. And what's wild is that this isn't some solo act invention of the Hebrew writers. This creature has deep, deep roots in the ancient world. Yeah. Bradley points out that almost every culture in the ancient Near East had their own version of a multi-headed godlike dragon. The Bible is actually stepping into a very crowded literary genre here.
See, this is where that King Ghidorah comparison really landed for me. In the Godzilla movies, Ghidorah is the big three-headed nemesis. But the biblical Leviathan, it is arguably way scarier.
Oh, for sure.
Bradley points us to Psalm 74, which explicitly mentions the heads of Leviathan, plural.
And if we look at the surrounding mythology, which gives us that cultural context you mentioned, it's almost always depicted with 7 heads.
Listen.
Yeah. 7 is a number of completeness in ancient literature. So a 7-headed dragon is basically ancient shorthand for complete terror.
7 heads. I mean, that is just a lot of teeth. But the description that really sold me on the whole horror movie vibe is from the book of Job, specifically chapter 41.
Oh, Job 41 is wild.
Have you read this recently? It is intense. It literally reads like a script for a creature feature.
It really does.
Yeah.
Job 41 is essentially the bio sheet or the stat block for Leviathan. It describes a creature that is absolutely impervious to human technology of the time.
Right.
It asks, can you fill his skin with harpoons? And the implied answer is obviously no. Swords just shatter against its scales. It has this double coat of mail.
And the special effects budget is huge here, too. The text literally talks about fire.
It does. It says, his sneezings flash forth light. Out of his mouth go burning torches. Sparks of fire leap forth.
Wow.
Out of his nostrils, smoke goes forth as from a boiling pot and burning rushes.
Wait, back up. His sneezings flash forth light. That is a terrifying image. It's like a biological flamethrower just attached to his sneeze.
Exactly. It's just primal, uncontainable power.
Yeah.
But there's this one detail the source highlights that I think completely changes the stakes of the whole thing.
Okay, what is it?
The text says that when Leviathan shows up, the Elim are afraid. Now, I completely missed this in my first read-through of the article.
Yeah, honestly, I glossed over that word too. What does a limb actually mean?
So it's a crucial nuance that is so easy to miss in English translations. The Hebrew word Elim is often translated in our modern Bibles as the mighty or the strong.
Okay.
So you read it and you think, okay, strong warriors or veteran sailors are scared of this thing. And that makes sense. It's a huge monster.
Right. You imagine like a hardened Viking or a seasoned monster hunter looking terrified on a boat.
Exactly. But Bradley points out, and this is backed up by a lot of really solid scholarship,
Right.
that Elim is arguably much more accurately translated as gods, as in supernatural being.
Gods. Wow. So we aren't just talking about a giant shark that scares a local fisherman. We were talking about a creature so terrifying that supernatural beings, the little agri-gods of the ancient world, are trembling.
Exactly. As the scholar William David Rayburn notes in the source we're using the word gods there fits the context perfectly because it emphasizes the increasing awesomeness of the creature.
It sets the scale.
Yes,
Yeah.
it sets the scale. This isn't part of the natural order as we understand it. It is something else entirely.
Yeah.
It's a chaos monster that literally threatens the divine order.
Okay, so we have a 7-headed, fire-breathing sea dragon that scares the gods. That is a very solid setup for a summer blockbuster, but I think this leads to the big question.
The why?
Right. The one I think a lot of listeners might be asking right now. What is it doing in the Bible? Why would the biblical authors include a creature that sounds like it belongs in a game of Dungeons and Dragons?
And this is where we have to put on our historian hats for a minute. To really understand Leviathan, you cannot just read the Bible in a vacuum. You have to understand the neighborhood that ancient Israel actually grew up in.
A Baal cycle. I have to admit that sounds like a washing machine setting, but I assume it's a story? Yeah.
It's a very famous epic from Canaanite mythology. Remember, the Canaanites were the literal next-door neighbors of the ancient Israelites.
All right.
They shared a language family, they shared geography, and they constantly clashed over culture and religion. In the Canaanite religion, their main storm god Baal rises to power. But to do that, to claim the throne of the universe, he has to defeat a rival.
Let me guess. A dragon.
Close. A sea god. His name was Yam. And Yam is explicitly described as the 7-headed god of the sea.
Okay, I'm definitely seeing the connection now. Yam, sea, 7 heads.
It gets even closer, though. In the Ugaritic text, which is the language of ancient Canaan, Yam is also referred to as Litten.
Litten. Oh, Leviathan.
Exactly. Litten is the exact linguistic equivalent of Leviathan. So here's the situation you have to picture. Everyone living in that region at that time knew this story.
It was their pop culture.
It was the pop culture of the day. The great god Baal fought the chaos dragon Yam, or Litten, smashed his 7 heads, and brought rain and order to the world. That was the story everyone believed. It was their avengers.
So when the Bible mentions Leviathan, it isn't introducing some brand new character out of nowhere. It's basically referencing a movie everyone had already seen.
That is a perfect analogy, and this is exactly where the polemic comes in. We defined polemic earlier as an aggressive argument. The Bible isn't just retelling the story to say, hey, look at this cool dragon. It's actively hijacking the story.
It's the ancient rap battle idea. It's a diss track.
In a very real way, yes.
Yeah.
Look at Psalm 74 again. The source emphasizes this very strongly. The psalm says, you crush the heads of Leviathan. But who is the you in that sentence?
Well, in the Canaanite version, it's Baal.
Right. But in the Bible, the psalmist is talking directly to Yahweh, the God of Israel.
Oh, I see. It's a remix. They're saying, you think Baal is the tough guy who took down the dragon. No. That was Yahweh. Yahweh is the one who crushed the heads.
Exactly. The source calls this a polemical claim. The Bible is asserting that Yahweh, not Baal, is the one with the true power over the chaotic dragon.
Wow.
It's not copying the myth to agree with it. It is using the imagery to correct it. It's saying, your gods are pretenders. Our God is the real dragon slayer.
That brings a whole new layer of sass to the Psalms that I never noticed before. It's like a theological mic drop. It's not just pretty poetry. It is a massive claim of supremacy.
And it doesn't even stop at just who beat whom. The source material points out something fascinating about the scale of power here. And this is where the pet analogy comes in, which I honestly think is one of the most brilliant insights in Bradley's entire article.
Oh, I loved this part. Because if you are a human, Leviathan is a waking nightmare. We established that swords break, warriors flee, gods tremble.
Right. And Job 41 verse 5 asks these incredible rhetorical questions. God is speaking to Job, and he asks, can you play with him as with a bird? Or can you put him on a leash for your girls?
The answer obviously being a hard no. You do not put a 7-headed fire dragon on a leash for your kids to walk. That's just bad parenting and a very quick way to die.
Exactly. For a human, it is impossible. Leviathan is completely invincible. But the source argues that for God, the relationship is completely different.
The article compares it to walking a dog, right?
Yes. Bradley writes that while humans are terrified, Yahweh himself is out taking him on a walk, like a pet.
That is such a flex. It just completely resizes the monster in your mind.
It really does. There's this really beautiful verse in Psalm 104, verse 26. It describes the great sea, teeming with creatures, ships sailing by, and it says, there go the ships, and Leviathan, which you formed to play in it.
To play in it.
The Hebrew word there suggests frolicking, like a dolphin, or a golden retriever splashing around in a pool.
So to us, he's the world-ending monster, but to God, he's just a rubber ducky.
Essentially, yeah. The deep insight here is about God's invincible strength. In so many ancient mythologies, the battle between the hero god and the chaos monster is really close. It's a massive struggle.
Well, they barely win.
Yeah, Baal has to fight for his life. He gets beat up a bit. But the Bible totally rejects that tension. Leviathan is scary to us, sure, but he is nothing compared to Yahweh. God isn't afraid. He's not struggling. He is in total control.
I think that's a really important distinction. It completely kills that idea of dualism. You know, the idea that good and evil are these equal opposite forces fighting it out forever. This says no. God is in a league of his own entirely.
Precisely. Leviathan is just a creature. Yahweh is the creator. There is no contest. It's not a boxing match. It's an owner and a pet.
Okay, so we've got the monster, we've got the ancient rap battle, we've got the dog leash, but let's go a bit deeper here. What does Leviathan actually represent?
That's the real question.
Because I assume God isn't just worried about ancient animal control. If this is a theological text, the monster must stand for something deeper.
You're exactly right. We have to move from the physical description of the beast to the theology of chaos. To understand this, you really have to grasp how the ancients viewed the ocean itself.
The source mentions that the sea itself is a symbol.
Yes. In the ancient Near Eastern mindset, the sea was the ultimate symbol of chaos, disorder, and the terrifying unknown. You have to remember, they didn't have GPS. They didn't have submarines.
No Coast Guard.
Right. The ocean was dangerous. It was untamable. It kills you if you go too deep. It was literally the abyss. And God, in the Bible, is primarily depicted as the God of order.
Right.
Think about Genesis 1. What does he do? He separates the waters. He creates dry land. He brings order out of the chaos.
So Leviathan, being the king of the sea, is basically the mascot for chaos.
Chaos, and more specifically, sin. The source makes a very strong, very clear connection here. Bradley points out that Isaiah 27 calls Leviathan a Nakash.
Nakash. I feel like I've heard that word before in Sunday school.
You definitely have. It's the exact same Hebrew word used for the serpent in the Garden of Eden in Genesis 3.
Oh, okay. Connect those dots for me because that changes things.
So you have the serpent in the garden who tempts humanity into sin.
Right.
Introducing chaos into God's perfect order.
Right.
And then you have Leviathan, the twisting serpent in the sea, representing cosmic chaos. Bradley argues they are emblems of the exact same thing. Leviathan is an emblem of sin itself, looking to wreak havoc on creation.
That makes the whole crushing the heads thing feel a lot more significant. It's not just about killing a giant animal. It's about destroying the very source of evil and chaos.
Precisely. The source says Leviathan represents everything that is wrong with the world. Think of war, famine, injustice, hatred, that swirling chaos that ruins human life. That is Leviathan.
Wow.
And because God is a God of order and justice, Leviathan must eventually be destroyed. It's not enough to just keep him on a leash. Eventually, the chaos has to end permanently.
Which leads us nicely to the end game, because the story doesn't end in the Old Testament. The source article fast forwards us to the very end of the Bible, to the book of Revelation.
This is the so what of the deep dive. This is where the ancient context touches modern theology. The New Testament mirrors these Old Testament images perfectly.
Bradley talks about John's vision in Revelation. And guess who shows up?
A seven-headed dragon.
Satan.
Yes, Revelation 12 explicitly presents Satan as a dragon. But there is also another character in the vision, the first beast, which is mentioned in Revelation 13, verse 1.
And where does this beast come from? Let me guess.
It rises out of the sea, and no surprise here, it has 7 heads.
It's almost like the author's trying to tell us something. It's a massive callback.
It is definitely not subtle. John, the author of Revelation, knew his Old Testament backward and forward, and he knew the cultural myths too. The expert consensus here is that the beast is a mirror of Satan. It leads people to worship the dragon.
Right.
And the source argues that this directly links all these figures together. Satan, the beast, Litten, Yam, Leviathan. They are all part of the exact same thematic force of chaos.
So it's basically like a costume change. Same actor, different mask. So I shouldn't be scanning the horizon off the coast for a literal Godzilla attack anytime soon.
I know. Bradley writes, there won't be literal dragons coming out of the sea to crush civilization. The chaos is legitimate. I mean, we see it in the world every single day, but it's not about physical monsters destroying buildings.
He says the damage is channeled through humans, right?
Yes. And this is a really profound point. The little god dragons operate through people. When humans listen to the voices of chaos, when they give in to sin, they actually become the agents of that destruction in the world.
Man, that hits home. It's not a monster out there that we have to worry about. It's the chaos we let into our own lives. It makes the scary stories suddenly very personal.
It really does.
It means we are actually participants in the Monsterverse.
We are. We can choose to align with order, or we can align with chaos. And that brings us back to the promise. The source uses this classic theological phrase, already but not yet.
Already but not yet. What does that actually mean in this specific context?
It means that in a theological sense, God has already crushed Leviathan. Remember Psalm 74, God claiming ultimate victory over the chaos myths. And for Christians, the cross was the ultimate victory over sin. The head of the snake was crushed.
Right.
But in the timeline of human history, the final total destruction of all chaos, the revelation part of the story is still to come. We are living in the middle.
We're living in the time where the monster's on the leash, but he's still snapping at people as they walk by.
That is a brilliant way to put it. The victory is secured. The monster is contained by God's power. He's not roaming completely free like he thinks he is, but the final elimination of chaos hasn't happened yet. We still see the splashing in the water. We still feel the waves.
This really reframes how I read the Bible, to be honest. It's not just a collection of nice moral rules. It's a war story.
Yes.
It's a story about a king retaking his territory from a usurper.
It is the ultimate war story. Order versus chaos. Creation versus decreation.
So let's recap this journey really quick, because we have covered some serious ground today. We started with a Godzilla comparison, the Monsterverse.
We established that Leviathan is a 7-headed chaos dragon, definitely not a whale. Then we realized this monster is actually part of an ancient polemic, a way for the biblical writers to definitively say, our God is stronger than your storm god.
Right. Then we looked at the scale, how this terrifying world eater is basically just a goldfish to Yahweh. Here, hold my leash.
And finally, we saw that this dragon is a potent symbol for sin and chaos, a force that God has promised to destroy once and for all, but that currently tries to work through us.
It just changes how you read those weird, cryptic passages in the Bible. Instead of skipping over the dragon stuff as just old poetry, you realize, oh wait, this is actually the main conflict of the entire story.
It is. It connects Genesis straight through to Revelation. It turns the Bible into a cohesive, epic narrative about defeating evil.
Now, before we sign off, I do want to leave you, our listeners, with a final provocative thought from the source material. Bradley challenges us to basically look in the mirror.
He does. He writes that if these chaos monsters operate through humans who listen to them, we have to ask ourselves a hard question. What little god dragons are we listening to today?
And that is the real scary part, because it's easy to root against a giant dragon in a movie. It's super easy to cheer when Godzilla fights Ghidorah.
Oh, yeah.
But it's a lot harder to root against the chaos in your own life. The anger, the division, the lies, the greed. Those are the actual heads of Leviathan popping up in our daily routine.
And the only solution, according to the source, is to yield to Yahweh. Because remember that stat block from Job. Humans cannot kill Leviathan.
No.
You can't harpoon him. You cannot discipline yourself into defeating cosmic evil on your own. He is the king over all the sons of pride.
So if you try to fight the chaos yourself, you'll lose.
You will lose every time. You need the dragon slayer. You need the one who actually holds the leash.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah.
It turns a study of ancient mythology into something incredibly practical for daily life.
It really does.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about monsters. It's about who is truly in control of the universe.
If you want to dive even deeper into this, because believe it or not, there are other monsters in the text like Behemoth, the land monster that we didn't even get to touch today.
Jamin Bradley has a book called Kaiju of Biblical Proportions.
It covers the full monster roster, exploring the theology and mythology behind all of them. It is definitely worth a read if you enjoyed this discussion and want to see just how deep the rabbit hole really goes.
Well, that is all the time we have for this deep dive. Thanks for swimming through the chaotic waters with us today.
Always a pleasure.
Until next time, keep diving.
Beneath the foam where the ancient waters churn, a serpent dreams in scales no mortal eye can burn. Coiled in the abyss, 1,000 winds unfurl. Leviathan whispers in the deep against the world. Once myth and myth alone, old chaos breathed its flame. Twisting serpent in the storm, no god but God by name. Not Baal nor any lesser storm that claimed a throne, but Yahweh walks the tidal roar and makes the sea his own. Oh, Leviathan, the dragon in the current and the soul's drowned cry. He'll roar not for disorder, but to make the maker known. And when the tempest breaks, the Savior stands atop the breakers, and every twisted coil will bow before his throne. Said you were the chaos beast from Eden's oldest flood, a 7-head of fury, of unslain wars and blood. Yet God crushed every head, the waters heard his voice, even the deep obeys when he bids the seas rejoice. Some say you coil pride, the sin that roots the proud. Others see your fire breathe, what shakes the sky aloud. But in Psalm and Job and prophecies long echoing halls, the monster's not the master, he breaks the sea dragon's thralls. Frolic in the sea, creature made for divine gaze, play in God's dominion, even chaos bows and sways. Yet come the day of days, when serpent's end is cast, he who holds the ocean's cord will bind your rage at last. Oh, Leviathan, more than fear in ancient script and cosmic verse, you were formed by wisdom's hand to shout God's glory wide. From deep that hides our terror to the dross that brings us light, our Maker steps into the storm.